Hello, Helen here. Welcome to my channel. Today's card I'm going to be using the Wallpaper Art Altenew stamp again. This time I'm going to be colouring with Copics. I really enjoyed making this card. It's been a while since I've used Copics, so I really enjoyed the colouring of these ones. So what I'm going to do is make a strip using the flowers onto a card panel, and then I'm going to cut that out and put it onto my card base. So I'm just going to use 2 of the flowers out of the 3 that are in the set and 1 set of the leaves. I'm going to use the Misty, so I'll put my strip of card into that and then stamp my first flower stamp. I'll overhang the first flower just so it comes off the page at the top. I'm going to use Memento ink because that's the best ink that I have for using with Copics. It doesn't smudge when you colour over the lines. I'm not going to emboss it this time, just do the flowers stamping with just the ink. Then after that I'm going to have to mask that off, so I'll make a couple of masks using some masking paper, and I'll put the mask on the first stamp that I do and stamp a second one, third one and a fourth one going down, just moving my masks. I cut the masks off screen just so that you didn't have to watch my painful cutting. I'm a very slow cutter, so I thought I'd skip that part. So the idea for masking is that you always just overlap your stamp slightly, and then when you peel the mask off it looks like it's behind the first stamp that you've done, so you get a little bit of dimension. So I'll just carry on doing that all the way down the strip and just make it just long enough to go the full length of my card. I'm going to also add some leaves as I go down, just so that I'm not having to replace the masks all the time. And the set that I've picked, I'm just going to use just the tips to be poking out behind the flowers. But the set I've picked of leaves, I can turn it around and get a different look with the other side of the leaves, so that just varies it slightly, but still using the same stamp. So I finished off stamping the last few leaves, and now I'm ready to start colouring with my Copics. Now I'm not an expert by any means, I just really enjoy doing the colouring with them. I don't have a great deal of them, I just have a few colours, and I have shades of 3 different colours in those colours that I have. But what I've discovered by watching other people colouring is that you can use a grey if you want to deepen the colour, which I may well do when in the depth parts of the petals, if the reds that I've got aren't dark enough. So what I start doing is colouring each petal with my darkest colour. I'll have all the colours that I've used in the blog, which the address for that blog will be in the description underneath this video. So I'll start colouring with the biggest, doing some feathering with the brush tip, and then I'll go over that plus extend a bit further with the next shade. I actually got 2 shades of the darker red because I wasn't sure which one was going to be better. One's slightly pinkier than the other, so I'm actually using 4 colours in this case. And then what I do is with my very lightest colour, I leave the very outside of the petals blank, and then I go over all of the colouring with the lightest colour just to blend it all through. Hope that makes sense. And here's where I just tried to do the grey, as I didn't think the red was quite deep enough in the very recess of the petal. I also went and found another shade. It's almost like a coral colour, because the lightest red that I had wasn't light enough, I didn't think, for the contrast. So I ended up using a more sort of coral colour to do some of the other petals, as you'll see shortly. If you go over the lines at all and you get colour where you don't want it, the clear ink or the blender pen is really good for pushing the colour back. So what I did was just draw over it with the clear, and it kind of pushed the ink back beyond the line again. I realised partway through that I should have had the camera a lot more focused in so that you could actually see what I was doing a little bit better. So here it is a little bit better, I hope, for you. I'll just colour the first flower and then colour the rest off screen because it's going to take me a long time to do all the colouring. And I did it over a couple of sessions, so I won't bore you with all that. So I've carried on colouring all the rest in, and then I fussy cut them out right to the black stamped edge. And I just wanted to show you a little trick that makes a world of difference when you're doing this sort of thing. If you go around, I don't know whether you can see close up, you have little white bits where you've not quite cut to the line, or the colouring doesn't go quite to the edge. If you go around with a black pen, and I've just got an embossing pen here, but a really old one that I've had for years, but you can do it with a Sharpie or any kind of marker, and just go around and colour the edge of your card in, and it makes a lot more professional and finished sort of look. I don't know whether you can see the difference there. Now at this step of the card, you could totally just mount your strip onto your card base and it would just look lovely. I'm going to do an extra step where I'm going to put some shading in behind, because I'm going to have the strip just slightly raised, and I just wanted it to be kind of grounded and look all part of the same card. So you'll see what I mean in a minute. So I'm just going to trace around each edge, but move it in slightly so that I can get kind of a guide of where the shape of the flowers and the leaves are. But then when I come to put the strip on, I'll cover the lines that I'm going to be drawing, and I'll do the same for the other side. And then I'm going to use 3 shades of grey and just shade it out into nothing to my card, so that it makes kind of like a shadow in behind the strip when it's stuck down. Again, I'm just feathering from the point where I drew out just a little bit with the darkest shade of grey, and then I'll go over that and a little bit beyond that with the next shade, and then the lightest, which is almost like clear. And then the last thing I'll do is just feather the very edge of that lightest grey with the blender pen, just so that it does look darker when it's wet, but when it dries it just shades it into nothing, so that the card's got a nice sort of blend. I'd totally forgotten about the fact that the Copics bleed through my cards, so I shouldn't have really done this on my card base. So what I'm going to have to do is cut that off and stick that down onto another card base just to hide all that bleeding at the back. But it's no problem, I'll just cut it with a craft knife and then stick it onto my card base and trim that just to make sure that it all fits nicely. The next thing I did was put a sentiment on with black ink and clear embossing powder. I've used Happy Birthday, but it could really be any type of sentiment to suit this card. I wish I'd put the sentiment up just slightly higher than I've put it though. I think it would have been visually a little bit better. And then I've put craft foam on the back of the flower strip, and I'm going to just mount that onto the card with glue just over the shading that I've done. The parts of my flower strip that overhang the card, I'm just going to turn it over and trim it with some scissors. And then the last touch I'm going to do is just use some Nuvo Drops black gloss ones, and I'm going to just put a few dots around the sentiment, and that's the card finished. As I said at the beginning, I really enjoyed making this card. I really enjoyed the colouring process, so I might well do a few more cards with Copics. You can use any other of the alcohol markers. I know Altenew have some markers of their own, so do give it a go. I'll leave you looking at some photos of close-ups of the card. If you enjoyed the video, please give me a thumbs up. I apologise, it was quite a long video. Do subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.